Coming up next
So
on the
I
Inherited
provide
Podcast.
therapy, trauma-informed therapy for children who've experienced some form of trauma. But a lot of the children are just kind of experiencing like transitional periods of going from daycare to elementary school, and parents just needing support and knowing the language to use for those children as they're transitioning, and to recognize like their developmental behaviors, like what's normal, what's not so normal. So after my sessions, I really don't think about it. Like I'll be in a session and I'll engage in their trauma dumping, especially the parents, because they'll just end up talking about their own stuff. But I don't really think about it when I leave the session. I leave the room and I'm like, have a good day. All right, so what was y'all saying? Like I go back to whatever I was kind of doing, because I can't internalize other people's stuff. And I've had to learn that in being the strong friend, that I can't exhaust myself and I have to have boundaries with how much I intake.
With the attitudes, rolling the necks, and da-da-da-da. I can't stand when I see that, because it's just like, why aren't you filtering what you're doing around your child, knowing that at those ages they're so impressionable? It's just like you don't care to let me not talk about this around young Jake or
Not
John
Jake from State
or whatever.
Building a legacy, so watch how you study me. You know it's inherited, ain't no comparison, stacking up guaranteed. Moving so militant, consistent and disciplined. Getting that paper and stacking it up, no time for no chillin', man. Building a legacy, so watch how you study me. You know it's inherited, ain't no comparison, stacking up guaranteed. Moving so militant, consistent and disciplined. Getting that paper and stacking it up, no time for no chillin', man.
What's good? You're now tuned into the Inherited Podcast, back from the episode again. If you have been watching and subscribing, I appreciate y'all very, very, very much. But today, yet again, another special guest. We're about to chop it up again. One of my favorite topics, touching on mental health, but specifically, check on your strong friends, right? Because your strong friends, they need somebody to talk to as well. They can't just handle everything all the time. But nonetheless, we're going to get right into it. So we have Aaila here, mental health therapist and the host of the Daily Storeroom podcast. How you doing? How you doing? Oh, yeah. Got to do the research.
Ooh, I'm good, though. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm excited to be here. I got to tell everyone the feng shui in this space is beautiful and warm.
Appreciate you. Trying to make it welcoming for all the guests to come in and like it. You know what I'm saying? Gotta treat our guests right.
It's a vibe.
Appreciate you. So look, before we get started, right? Icebreaker time.
Okay.
Pod deck. I'm gonna pick a card, okay? We both gonna answer. You'll go first. I don't know what I'm gonna pick. I'm just gonna shuffle it up.
Okay.
Whatever it says, we're gonna answer it. This isn't a deck where it's like some crazy questions. Sometimes they're thoughtful, sometimes they're like, taking you back a blast in the past. But we're gonna see what it's gonna say. So today's question is, what technology do you wish existed?
Do I wish existed?
Yeah, so something that we don't have that you wish we did have.
I would say, okay, so I actually had an idea years ago. I don't know if this would classify as a technology, but I wanted to create something that would be beneficial for those suffering from homelessness. So, as they're outside panhandling and asking for money, the average person doesn't really have cash on them. And people don't really like to use Cash App now because people have found a way to get your money. But I wanted to create something where it's, they would have to be registered so that people know, the population of homelessness. But they would have a card that's registered where they can like put their money to, and they could use that card to kind of tap it on other people's phones and stuff, kind of like a Bluetooth.
You like that dot card situation?
Yeah, like a dot card, but specifically for those struggling with homelessness so that they can learn how to be self-sufficient and learn how to manage their money. Because when they see the money coming in, it kind of sends like a different thing to your brain where you feel more motivated and accomplished with what you did for the day.
That
would be something.
I actually like that.
I really want to
keep that on the hush, get that patent in the future.
Listen, okay.
Now, that's those. I do care, like thinking about the homeless. That's one of my passions as well, to kind of figure out how can we help them more, because you can always just see them on the street, give them a few bucks, but it's just some people who are homeless really didn't choose that life. Circumstance could have truly happened to them to land them there. They just don't have the resources to build themselves back up. But I do love that you want to help out the homeless. But for me, it may even exist, of course, and the government and all that, but literally a time machine. But not to
how far back?
I mean, as far as back, 'cause I don't want to see the dinosaurs, all the holiness walking the earth, everything. But just, I would say it would have to have the constraints of you can't change anything, you know, just to specifically to view it. You know what I'm saying? Just go back.
So like
no
one else can see that you're there. Kind of thing?
So pretty much like it'd be called a fly on the wall time machine. You can just go back there and just see stuff and get some information, you know, because you never know, maybe something we see back then could help cure a disease here, or see how did this start, or how did that start, or how did slavery really start, or some stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it'd be a time machine, the fly on the wall time machine. So
I like the dinosaur thing because I have a real fascination with understanding the timeline of when certain things existed and where it was. Like the whole Egyptian thing. I'm like, okay, so was that at the same time as the dinosaurs, and where was everybody at?
Yo, that's a good question.
I really need to know this information.
See, so that just shows the proof is in the pudding. It'd be a good one right there.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
For sure. Okay, so now we got that out of the way, right? So what they want to do is just get your background. So, and again, because it's a good topic of mental health, I'm pretty sure that your background kind of played a part into the path you chose to go into the mental health field. Because again, we all come from somewhere. We all have traumas we've dealt with, and then just that passion grew out of somewhere. So just take us back to young Aaila, right? Just let's see what age I'm gonna go to towards the what, if you can remember. If you can remember the 8-year-old to like preteen area there. So how was life for you then? What was like the family dynamics growing up, just friends and stuff like that, school, high school, middle school? So what was your life like then growing up for you?
Well, so I grew up in a single parent household. I'm the oldest of 3. So, and I had a young mom. So my mom had me really young. So I was kind of like the adult, especially at that age of 8. I was more so taking care of my siblings, you know, cooking, cleaning. Like I was doing all of that in middle school. And then I lost 2 of my uncles really young to street stuff. And that was the time that I was transitioning from middle school into high school. So high school just completely changed because I was just so angry. I hated the school. I didn't care for my family. Like everyone was just super weird, I guess. But I learned to be very like resilient and independent because I had no choice. And I think that that's probably one of the things that has allowed me to be where I am now, where I am very independent and I value stability like no other. And then kind of just more so learning about myself and the impact that those traumas had on me, because I wasn't aware of a lot of things when I was young. I just knew that I was feeling these things, but I didn't really have the language or the support to like connect with people and actually get help. So yeah, so preteens, I was just in high school ready to get out. I didn't really have a plan of what I wanted to do. Initially, I wanted to go to college for law because I saw Legally Blonde when I was young. And I really wanted to be a lawyer after that. I was like, oh yeah, I need to be a defense attorney. I want to do X, Y, and Z. I did not do any of that. But
crazy how life goes.
It's so crazy. Like I still have an interest in it because I went to school. I got my degree in criminal justice, but then I got my other degree in social work with a minor in political science. So I really love the art of like understanding policy and how policy plays a huge role in our economy and our employment and job. Like it's huge. And I feel like everyone should be at least aware of what these things look like. But yeah, so senior year, I actually volunteered at an elementary school helping second graders tutoring. And I really enjoyed, I guess, the impact I was having on them because I was building a great relationship with them. I would like go to their activities and stuff because their parents really respected the way that I was helping their children. But then I went to the military.
Same.
Which was just a very random decision.
What branch?
The Army.
Why you, hold on now, because I was in the Army. They ain't got to say it like that. The
worst branch of them all.
What you would have preferred to go to the Air Force?
The Chair Force. Okay, I would have preferred to chill and do no work at bare minimum. But yeah, I went to the military, which was, I really only went, I had an idea of the military from like films and stuff. And I really like I just like the support, the team, I don't want to say certain things on here, but just the skill that you build from what these things look like. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to the military and that was probably the worst experience for me.
Really?
Yes.
Why so?
But you know, it is very hard for women in the service.
I agree.
Because we are around a bunch of...
It's a male-dominant area, yeah.
Bunch of men who... I guess you realize in that space that it doesn't matter if they have on a uniform, that a lot of people are still whoever they are outside of the uniform. So just dealing with like a lot of sexual trauma, a lot of harassment, a lot of, I started going to group and therapy more when I was in the military because of that. And I was meeting other women who were experiencing the same things that I was. And it just it just shed a lot of light on the impact of the service and the impact of not having more women available to support the other women who need it. So then I got out and went to social work.
So when you growing up, right, it sounds like you had would you say it was something you had to grow up at a young age?
Yeah.
Like pretty much you had all that responsibility just turns you into a young adult. So with that, did you miss out on a lot of childhood, or you still had a good balance of, yes, I'm kind of head of household, but I still had my going out with friends and having fun, or was that pretty much just dead for you as growing up?
So I have a really big family. So growing up with my mom, I also grew up like with my grandparents. And because we have a big family, I was always with everyone else. So like most of what I can remember from my childhood is from the weekends of me going to cousins' houses, playing outside. I've watched every kid movie and every kid cartoon show you could think of. I played every game. Like, I loved kickball. I was a kickball champ. No one can see me to this day.
Okay, then.
Like, I love doing I was still doing outdoor stuff. I still went to like camp. But that was kind of what allowed me to see perspectives and how other people lived, that I wasn't confined or stuck in my environment because I was able to see that there was something else out there outside of my home. So I think that kind of propelled me to being independent and stable, but also recognizing that other people have different childhoods and that I can't project what I anticipate others to do onto me because it's what I do.
Facts. So. I feel that. So, and I like to ask women this because a lot of guests that I've had, and it's just ironic, the percentage of growing up in a one-parent household has been more than two parents, right? So with you going through that, but as a female, because I'm 100% honestly just want to know, how did that affect you as a woman? So your dad wasn't there, correct? So how did that affect you as a female? Because people would say a woman who grows up without a dad will have father issues and daddy issues, this and that. But it's just coming from a male perspective. We can only say what we think that is, but I just want to know from the source, like, how did that affect? Yeah, I mean, because you can't speak for a woman. I hate when people try to do that as well. So how did that really affect you, not having a father figure in the home, or where did that send you in life?
So all myself and my siblings, we all had different dads. So myself and my sister, our dads weren't present. We did grow up like with my brother's dad for a time. So I have that bond. And I guess because I don't really harbor on things, I know that the adults, when you're young, the adults have their own struggles. And as a child, you're not really seeing what that looks like. So I have a relationship with like my brother's dad, where I call him dad. But then I don't know who my dad is at all. So I kind of grew up with people saying that someone was my dad and making like very passive remarks. And I know the person now because me and him are super close now. And I call him dad.
That's a blessing.
So, and people will see me post him online because he's like super young and chill. And we hang out and we have conversations about what that felt like for me. We haven't done the test yet because I'm nervous.
Oh, man.
I'm nervous that he would be. And I'm nervous that I would be angry.
That he is?
That he is, and that none of the adults did their due diligence when I was young to ensure that I had that relationship at that time. Because now it's like on me where I'm making the choice to get the test done.
Jeez.
But father wounds and daddy issues, I didn't really experience. I didn't experience that because I grew up with my uncles who were young. They passed away at 22 and 24. So I grew up with them, but I also grew up with like a lot of the guys that they had around. So a lot of the males in my life are like cousins who are way older. whose homes I was always at, and my uncle's friends that he grew up with. So I kind of was still able to like connect and bond with other men and just see how men should be. Like, okay, this is how a man carries himself. This is how he stands in his friendships. This is how my uncles preached about loyalty all the time. So I'm 12, 13 in high school, and I'm talking about loyalty and stuff. And I'm reciting C Murder and BG, and people looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, if y'all not about what y'all talking about, then I just gained like my language was just so different because I was around so many different people that even as an adult now, people are like, where did you get that from? And I'm like, my uncles. I just ignore me.
But that's still dope. At least you may not have had your biological father there, but the fact that you still had those male figures, that's what I guess that's what was key. Because a lot of women who they just don't have their dad, and that's it. There aren't any uncles or brothers or other fathers that are available. It's just them, Mom Dukes, and life to teach them. Sometimes they will grow up not knowing, like you say, he taught you all those things and instilled into you as far as what a man is, what a man does, what it should do. I feel as if those are important for a female because it's like when a male teaching a male, we can learn some of these experiences just off of sheer going out and doing. And it's like coming into your manhood, your dad they can tell you only so much, but I don't want to just be a rock hearted, solid man. I still need that femininity from a female to know how to be compassionate, how to show love, how to care. But the fact that you still had that from those other guys it's a blessing in itself to do that. And I salute the fact that you were able to still find out who he is, but it just still sucks that you kind of still have that. You're scared to really know, like, all right, is this true or not? Because it's like that should be I
just don't want to punch everybody in the face who didn't say anything. Now I'm not scared because I would feel the way. It's really because I would just look at everyone like, so y'all didn't.
Like, that's really messed up. Y'all could have told me this whole time.
Yeah, like y'all. I mean, I wouldn't trip now though because we have a relationship, and he's very similar to me. Like we talk. He's in a similar field. He works for Scholastics, but he goes to schools and he talks about programming and mental health and stuff like that. So we have a lot in common.
And that's dope.
As far as that, and we'll text each other all day, like thoughts back and forth. I'll say something, he'll respond with his opinion, and we just send memes and gifts all day. And it's a blessing.
Did you think it would be like that when you found out who he was? Like y'all was bonding this much, or was this just like, oh, I would have never thought this in a million years?
So it's so funny. So I'll tell you a story. So back when Twitter was Twitter in 2000, like when it was good Twitter, I had met someone on Twitter, and I was having a house party. So this was when I was still in high school. I was having a house party, and me and the girl that I connected with on Twitter, she was like, oh, I'll come. And I was like, all right, cool. So she comes, and my mom knows who it is because the person who everyone was saying was my dad, it was her dad.
Oh, man.
And that was the most ironic thing ever. I was like, what the hell? So then I was curious, like, who is her dad? So coming to find out, he was actually close because the cousins whose houses I was going to on the weekend, he was like related to them. But I never seen him. It's crazy, right? But I never seen him around. So I'm like, so this is why all of y'all knew, because y'all are all pretty close. I was the only one who didn't know. So after that, though, me and her were really close. I call her my sister because we look alike, but we're like super, super tight. And we'll talk about him. We'll be like, you talked to your dad today? No, that's your dad. Did you talk to your dad? Like, so she loves it because she just feels like, you didn't get to experience him for the time that I did. So she welcomes like my jokes and us being around each other, because that was something that I was curious about. Like I didn't want her to feel away because me and him, hang out and are around each other. But I wanted to go back to something you said about, the feminine traits of a woman. And then you mentioned like compassion and nurturing, because I really want people to know that those aren't limited to women, because it's still like a man's role to show. Because even if a man is bonding with his son, he is still there to show him compassion. If your son falls, you show compassion in the fact that he fell and he got up. You still have to nurture his wounds and nurture him. So I feel like for those who didn't experience what that looks like, it's still important to connect and build community around you. It's still important to go out and go to events and just see who you can be around, because you never know what kind of energy a friend could have. You could have a male friend who gives you that nurturing and compassionate energy that allows you to know how to navigate through those types of relationships with the opposite.
No, that's true. Like with me growing up, like I had both parents in the household, but it was still one of those things where it wasn't the perfect both parents in the household. So it was like you might as well say sometimes you only have one, whether it's your mom or dad. But like my pops, it was and again, and just to pause here, like I had to learn when I grew up, like you said, they did the best they could. But me growing up, it was just like, bro, this shit is so messed up. Like I'm the youngest of 4. But my older siblings, you gave me a baby. But my older siblings used to always say, like, yeah, we was the family of the neighborhood. Everybody used to love coming to the crib, and we used to have this and that. But
you was like, what?
The only thing that I've experienced growing up was struggle and trauma. So it was like, I don't know what that felt like to be in the kind of wholesome environment of the family. It was just when I came of age and understanding, it was just struggling, got to pay the bills, got to do this and that. So, but my dad, he was just so much of the trying to just, I guess, build me and the boys just be the hard workers, the hard body, like stop crying, or go do some push-ups because of this and this and that. So it was just like, I missed out on the love part from the male role. So even growing up in relationships, it showed in that area. So, but I had to learn it myself, but it just took longer than I can't say. I guess it should, because things happen how they're supposed to happen. But it was just like I had to learn that on my own a little bit, even though mom was there. But that was limited because she had to work and had to hustle. So it was just being lost on your own, trying to figure those things out as a guy. That stuff is tough when you don't learn it, because again, you can ruin relationships, whether it's intimate or business. Where I say if you're in a business setting and you just sit here just want to be hard body all the time, it's just still show compassion for your boss or your employees and just extending grace to understanding like, okay, this is why this could have happened, this is why that could have happened. But I feel like I agree with what you're saying. It's very important for us as men to, I don't have kids, but to speaking to our kids and to nurture them and tell them it's okay to cry. If you're crying, it's just a form of emotion. Like let it out, acknowledge it, deal with it, and come talk to me about like, why do you feel this way? Why did you start crying? Who hurt you? Why do you think they hurt you? Just to have those open conversations, I feel is very important. That's what I know for a fact. If God bless him with a son or daughter or not,
right?
I just want to be that person to do the unlearning and relearning for them. You know what I'm saying? Just show them like, okay, I may not be perfect. I don't know what my life is going to lead to. Things could happen. Shoot, the market could crash again and possibly be struggling, but I don't want to ever ignore them because I got to handle my business where they growing up having a father, but not having a father in the household. So, but that's very important for kids. But speaking on the youth, right? So jump into what it is that you do as far as the mental therapy in your field of work. So explain to whomever be listening the specifics of what you're doing.
The specifics.
A little detail.
So right now, because I've worked with a lot of different populations in mental health and social work. And I want everyone to know, because I'm not a caseworker, because I feel like people say social work, they assume that is
that's what you associated with it.
But social work is just the umbrella term for anyone in service of people, basically. So I provide therapy, trauma-informed therapy for children who've experienced some form of trauma. But a lot of the children are just kind of experiencing like transitional periods of going from daycare to elementary school, and parents just needing support and knowing the language to use for those children as they're transitioning, and to recognize like their developmental behaviors, like what's normal, what's not so normal. So also providing like a lot of psychoeducation for parents and families. But I work with parents, women who are pregnant, and kids up to 12. Okay. So they can be super small and they can talk a lot. It just depends. But
what does that look like though? One thing you just said that sparked something in my mind was you were saying like transitioning from like elementary to middle school. So what? I didn't get confused, but it was just like, what issues are they having to where you got to address for them at that transitional stage?
So to me, from what I've seen and just kind of what I try to get parents to understand is that it's really the household. And this is because I hold all of the parents accountable. It is the household.
Yes.
It is they either don't have a schedule for the child. The parents could be having to get up early in the morning because they have to go to work. So the child has to get up. They're probably rushing. So the child is rushing. So the child isn't understanding, transitions that when you wake up, you brush your teeth, you put your clothes on, you get ready to get out, you eat, whatever you do, whatever the setup looks like. But if there's no consistency and stability in what that looks like, then they end up going to school with that energy. So if they were rushing early in the morning, they're probably not going to be able to sit still when they get to school. They're probably going to be fidgeting a lot, a lot of movements, a lot of talking, not paying attention to the teacher. If they weren't able to eat breakfast, then they're probably hungry. So now they're probably having tantrums, because kids express themselves through their behavior because they may not have the language. So if you're in a household where your parents aren't using the language, like you said, to, asking questions, how do you feel this morning? Talk to your kids and actually bond with them so that when they get to school, they're able to navigate going from this class to this class. When you have this class and you have to take a nap, when you're done your nap, you have to get up and do this. Those are transitions that can be hard for those kids who are like 4 and under. But then when they get to elementary school, there's no naps. It's very structured. You have to sit down. You can't just keep getting up and asking for snacks. It's a different thing, and they aren't used to that. And because they aren't used to that, they end up, misbehaving in class. Teachers are complaining because they're also understaffed. The requirements for education is very different now. So you'll go to a lot of schools and they have very young paraprofessionals in there who are just playing with the kids. There's no real background in anything, which is astounding to me. But then you have those teachers who are calling the parents all day. And the parents have to come down, and now everyone thinks that the child is having behavioral issues. And it's like, are they having behavioral issues, or was their morning messed up? Did you rush them this morning? Were you screaming at them before they got into the school? That affects their psyche. It affects the way they're going to engage with their peers. They had a hard morning, so they get to class, they don't want to talk to anyone. Now y'all are concerned because they're not talking. But it's like, what are the underlying issues that these kids are having to deal with? Because it's not them.
That got deep. It's just open my mind.
It's a lot.
Nah, but that's good. That's good dialogue there though, because it's just, I would think of it in that manner, but not as deep as you just went. Because I can honestly see now, like, shoot, if
kids be stressed out.
Yeah, if I'm waking up hungry and rushed and may forget something, I'm probably not knowing what being pissed is at a young age, but they're letting out these emotions that they don't know what it is, but they're just reacting to, I guess, how the body tells you to react. But if mama and dad yell at me in the morning and I'm mad, if somebody says, I'm going to yell at you, and I'm learning what they're doing to me, they say that a lot as well. If you're at home, you don't even have to talk to your kids. If you're just in that environment, on the phone with your homegirl, your homie just cussing and yelling this and that, they may feel like this is how the human is supposed to interact. Right. So let me go to school and
mimic this behavior.
Yeah, respond in that same manner. Hence why you're seeing either young females or young males going to school with the attitudes, rolling the necks, and da-da-da-da. I can't stand when I see that. Because it's just like, why aren't you filtering what you're doing around your child, knowing that at those ages they're so impressionable? Yeah. It's just like you don't care to let me not talk about this around young Jake or not John Jake from State or whatever. Oh, let me get that young Jaquan. But it's just, I don't get why, again, I'm not a parent, but just on the outside looking in, I feel like there's a lot that could be done to prevent these behavioral issues, to prevent these kids growing up being school shooters or being bullies and stuff like that. But I don't understand why parents don't want to accept the accountability that it's their fault. I agree. I believe everything starts at home. If you're not at home giving your kids values, morals, principles, responsibilities, they're going to just go out here in the free world. And again, sometimes you're a product of your environment. Like whatever you're around, whatever you see, you're going to feel like this is reality. This is what we should do and what should be going on. I just feel as if that's the parents' fault, you know? And again, like you say, it's a mixture of, because they always say sometimes, or the teachers just be lying on me. So do you think it's kind of a little bit of both on parents and teachers?
It's definitely both. So,
Okay.
like a lot of the parents that I've worked with, I mean, I even went to a school yesterday. I went to do a school visit yesterday, and I was in the hall waiting for my two of the little girls I work with to come into the school. And I seen a parent. She came into the school rushing her daughter, and she just, if you were to see her, I'd have been like, your child is embarrassed right now. You are embarrassing your child with the way you just walked up in this school like this. But she was late to school. I think it was probably like 12 o'clock. And so the principal was like, she's considered absent because it's after 11, whatever their time was. And she was like, oh, I want to, she said she needed to get here because she had a dance event. And he was like, oh, that's not till next Thursday. And you could just see her grab the girl's face. It's like, I told you not to. And in my head, I'm like, you're mad at her. She is the child.
Right.
You should have her schedule. You should be aware of her events and the times so that when she presents it to you, it's not her responsibility to be accurate in that manner. It is your responsibility to say, no, your event or activity is next Thursday. And I'll make sure you get there on time, yada, yada, yada. But now you're grabbing her, you're being physical with her, you're embarrassing her because there are other people in this space and you want her to go to class and have a good day.
That's trash.
She is probably emotionally bothered.
Right.
And clearly you don't have the language to communicate with her. So she's not going to have the language to communicate to her teacher that she is frustrated or she is upset or she is concerned or sad or doesn't want to be there. But, it's also the teachers not being mindful and aware of what that looks like. You know that you are a teacher. You know that some of these kids are in different types of homes and environments where there is stability or there isn't stability. You have to be aware of how these kids are interacting and engaging with one another. You have to be aware of normal developmental stages. A lot of their behavior is very normal. It's just an inconvenience for you as the teacher. And so you want to punish these children because the education system and the school that you work at and the position that you have is ultimately not benefiting you. And you're taking it out on these children and you're putting in their minds that something is wrong with them. I be having a huge problem with that because I'll get kids who come in and they'll say like, yeah, I'm bad because they'll say it. I'm bad because I did this. And I'm like, well, that doesn't mean that you are bad. You made a mistake. It's okay to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. That doesn't mean that you're bad. So it's like they are programmed now to assuming that their normal behavior is bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, we don't
tell somebody that over and over and over, you're going to start to believe it sooner or later.
And become adults who have normalized unhealthy behavior. So when they're adults and they're meeting other people and they're connecting, they're trying to understand why these other people are acting like this because to them, that healthy stuff isn't normal. The way you're talking to your friends, that's why y'all talking like that. It's like, this is how you should talk. Now you have to unlearn. Now you have to go back years and it's like for someone to believe, this may be a terrible one, but if you believe that Jesus is real your whole life, then you find out he isn't. Now you have to unpack all of that. And that's a lot. It's detrimental to who you believed you were.
Yep.
Now you have to look in the mirror and figure out who you are outside of the unhealthy norms you've been perpetuating for X amount of years. And that's exhausting.
It's
exhausting to say it just there.
Right. I'm taking it so much. Because it just makes so much sense. It's like, then as teachers, on their end, it's like, you're right. Have some compassion and try to understand. Because I know, especially in Title I schools, these kids are coming from the hood.
Yes.
Extra broken households where the parents, even there was one time, it was a school, I ain't gonna say the name of the school, but I volunteered there sometimes to work out field days and stuff like that.
Okay,
but
that's nice.
They used to hear stories of, okay, let's say, whatever her name is, her dad dropped her off, but her whole book bag smelled like a pound of weed. So it's just like, and then the dad would get mad. It's like, well, why the book bag smell? It's like, bruh, because you sitting here either smoking in the car while you dropping her off at school, or you just around the facility of her smoking at the same time. But then it's on the teacher side to just try to have that grace and compassion of just saying, you may have a bad day as a teacher, but you're their parent in that time. You're that confidant, that responsibility there. So you got to try to suffocate your feelings and try to really just be a leader to these kids. But it's just some teachers are just really there for a check. Some just
Which is a terrible job to do for a check because you're really not even getting a check.
Say that again because I've seen
feel
some
like
of those salaries. It's like
if you woke up to do this job, you should do it great.
exactly because you know what it's getting, what it's worth right now. So if you're gonna say yes to this, you need to be very, very passionate about children and very passionate seeing the growth of a child in your environment, not just saying, oh, well, this kid is just bad as hell. You know, this and that. Let me just call mom and they're going to come up here and whoop him from the class anyways. And that's how embarrassment stuff. When parents do that type of things, it's like the kid is embarrassed. And then you have these other untrained kids who's going to pick at them. And then it's like, now it's like.
Somebody going to turn into a bully.
Right. So do I just sit here and take it? That comes in depression, anxiety, or am I gonna stand my ground like mama and daddy taught me? And now I'm a bully. I'm the bully back. Or now I'm fighting. Or now and then again I'm coming here shooting the school up.
Right.
So it's just so controversial.
It's a
back
circle.
and
It's a
man.
whole circle.
How do you think it can be fixed though? If it can, your ideal situation. How can that be resolved? To try to get parents and teachers on the same path of let's put these kids first and recognize the issues, the traumas, and try to create a good environment for these kids to grow up in and learn in first and foremost.
So it can definitely be fixed. I feel like it's really up to the adults to navigate their support systems. If you know your child goes to this school, see what resources the school has, because the schools usually always have resources. They, unfortunately, they may not be forthcoming with the information, but it's also up to the parents to be accountable for the role that they play in their children's success. So you have to ask the questions as well. You have to go to, there are parenting workshops to go to for you to learn these things. If someone is constantly coming to you saying that your child is exhibiting X behavior, do research on that behavior and figure out, if it's something that's coming from the home or if it's something developmentally that's happening with them. It's a lot of parents who wait to the last minute for children who have autism or on a spectrum. They wait so long because they're either unaware of what resources they have, they're scared of labeling their child. But then there are so many benefits because a lot of these schools, they have sensory rooms. You can work with the counselor and they have like things where kids can journal and do grounding work and learn meditation and learn yoga so that there is some type of peace in their school environment. And so I end up having to tell parents, I'll like create a list of questions for a lot of them. And I say, ask the school this when you register the child for that school. Ask them if they have these resources for your child in that school. And if they don't, then find another program. Or ask them to have these resources. So when I go to the schools, I'll ask them, do you have common corners for the kids? Are there reward systems for the kids to understand the act of taking initiative and being responsible, knowing the language around that, and then understanding the consequences of not being responsible, like if someone tells you to do something. And a lot of times they don't have any of that.
Yeah, that sucks though.
And I'm like, y'all, you can't just think that you're just going to teach them a curriculum or, a topic and that's all that there is. They have to understand their development. They have to understand how they are engaging with their environment and with their peers. And, and also getting therapy. Like, so the program I work for is Chris 180. They're the biggest one in the state of Georgia, but the program is free for 12 and under.
Listen up.
It's a free program for 12 and under. And then they have at Promise locations. They have 3 at Promise locations that are set up kind of like a YMCA, but those are programs that service 13 to 24. Okay. And that's free as well. They accept insurance, but they have like free programs. So kids can come there. They have therapy. They have music programs, like music rooms where kids can learn music. They do like jujitsu and like activities out there. So there are resources out there. People just have to ask the questions.
And go do their research to
and
find
do their
them.
research because Google is free and you can just search, what you need, or you can go on United Way, the 211 website, and search for everything in the state of Georgia.
Is that the brand with the hand? Like something like that, I think
so, yeah.
Okay, that name just sounds familiar.
Yeah, United Way, but for Georgia, they have a 211 website where you can search for literally anything, like housing stuff, clothing stuff, food, programs, counselings, like everything is on there.
There was plenty of resources.
There are
plenty
of resources.
But there's 2 things I'm gonna ask real quick. But first, you speaking about autistic kids, right? And just
Children with autism.
Children with autism.
Yes.
Let me get right. Children with autism. They're very smart.
Very smart.
It was a program that I was trying to do a while back, but it was an in-home program. My family had a child with autism, but his issue was, I think he couldn't really speak, but he had certain tics and whatnot. But this kid could do complicated math problems and algebra, and
crazy.
My mind
I still don't
was
understand
blown
it.
to the fact that, but he did it to where he had like different pens and colors and stuff. So his colors and pens stuff matched the numbers and this and that. But dude was I'm not a mathematician, but he was really doing it. But it was just to see that and putting a label on kids like that, just and to X them out. Little they know, they're some of the smartest people in the world. And it was also a program that she was trying to implement. It was called Sunrise Program.
Okay.
I guess it was What Happened. Are you familiar with that? What happened was, I can't remember the guy who started. It was him and his wife. They had a child with autism, and they pretty much tried to treat it themselves in their home. So they would take them, put them in the bathroom because it was smaller, and they could pretty much have them focus on certain things. But over time, they actually healed their child from autism just from doing sensory things and they had to have somebody with him like 24/7 to keep it going and going and going. So they did it with their child, and he ended up growing up being able to speak properly, talk, interact, and they did it with the different families. I was just like, just that label. It's a good book, and the program itself is dope. But to bounce off of that, right? When you're talking to kids at that young of an age, is there I'm pretty sure there's a barrier for communication, but how do you ensure that you're kind of getting across to them, or the communication is like being met up to where they understand what you're saying, they can retain it and try to apply it? Is that difficult, or is there specific things you do to make sure that works out?
So it's not difficult for me. I feel like I have really great connections with the kids that I work with. I always get parents who are like, they don't really talk to therapists, and they're not gonna. I'm like, okay, we will see. And they come in, and I feel like kids just can understand energy, and they read the room because they're very smart. So a lot of the kids, like I've worked with 3 and 4-year-olds, right? So because their parents say the same thing, like they don't really know what's going on and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, they do. They're just probably not telling you, or they don't feel comfortable enough to tell you. So what I would do in the form of child-parent psychotherapy is when I have the parents involved in the sessions, and I kind of allow the parents to learn how to communicate with their child, and I'll briefly interject. But if I'm doing like play therapy, then I'll do like a lot of role play, depending on what their presenting issues are. So I'll do role play, and I kind of talk to them. I talk to them normal, but I use certain words to see if they'll trigger their thoughts. So I'll say, does anyone do anything that makes you so mad? Or has anyone done anything that's so mean to you and you get so upset and so angry? And so I kind of like will make these faces and do certain things so that they can see the words that I'm using and the way that my face looks, so that they can, because then they'll mimic it. They're like, yeah, I just feel like, and I'm like, okay, that just made you angry, huh?
That's right.
But it's like certain things like that just kind of get them to open up because they feel like you're relating to them. You're getting down on their level. I'll sit on the floor with them, and we'll have blocks or we'll have action figures. I bring a lot of superhero stuff in it because for kids who are, let's say, being mean to other kids, or they're hitting and biting, I'll talk about Spider-Man, and they're like, I love Spider-Man. I'm like, so how is Spider-Man with his friends? Is Spider-Man nice with his friends?
Yeah.
And then they'll kind of, Spider-Man is so cool and he does this. And then I'm like, so are you nice with your friends? And then they'll begin to associate, I guess, the character with themselves, but it helps them look inward at their behavior. They're then able to understand, like, this is on me. I am actually in control of how nice I am to someone else. I am in control of when I bite someone because they're not sharing their toy. And I feel like once they learn that, because toddlers are all seeking autonomy. Kids don't have choice. They don't really have any options. Like, they do what you tell them to do. They want a voice. They want to make choices on their own. They want to be independent. So when parents limit their independence, even in play, where they're like, no, don't fall or don't do this, it's like you have to allow them the autonomy to make mistakes. You have to allow them the choice to understand their behavior. I bit someone, you told me it was wrong. I have to know that it's wrong in order for me to not do it again. So then you have to present them with examples that kind of help them shift that perspective. But the adults have to be in a space where they can shift their own perspective. Oof. And there are a lot of parents who don't want to shift their perspective because they feel like, well, this is my child and I'm a parent. And I'm like, people have kids every day. You're not just, I have a child and now I am set for life. I have all the tools to be a parent. No one can tell me anything. It's like, you just had a child. You still have to learn how to be a parent. This is something new for you. So I just feel like having the language, sitting with them on their level, giving them autonomy with choices. You want to play with this or play with this? You want to talk about this? Or because you could talk to them and at some point they'll be like, I don't want to talk anymore. I'm tired of talking. And it's like, okay, well, what would you like to do now? Do you want to play and talk? Or do you want me to just be quiet and sit here? Like, I'm going to give them choices because then they are able to trust me. Facts. And they're able to trust that I'm going to allow them the freedom to express what they need to. I'm not going to shut them down. I'm not going to make them feel like something they said was rude. They're kids, they're curious, they're inquisitive, they have questions, they want to know things. And they don't know what rude is. So a lot of parents are like, they're acting grown and like they don't know what that is. You're telling them what that is and you're adjusting their perspective. You're introducing something new to them that is not healthy.
That is wild. That's deep.
It's a lot.
No, that's good information though. Again, I'm gonna have to come back and rewatch this when that day comes. But this is making me realize, because it's like you would see parents just shutting their kids down. Shut up, go sit down, all that, and it's just like, I'm a kid. Like I don't know what responsibility is. I'm just I'm a kid. But as a parent, you may be so stressed out, and it's just like you just so quick to push them to the side. But it's
because adults think with their adult brain, and they forget that kids are thinking with a kid brain, even if they look older. Because I have a lot of little cousins who are 12, 13 years old, and they're like my height and my size. And it's like, you also can't look at them based on their appearance. Yeah. Because they may look like they're about 15 or whatever, but they have the brain of a 12-year-old. And you have to remember that developmentally, they are different than your perception of them.
That's wild. That's great information. But so let's fast forward, right? So as in adulthood, right? You're a mental therapist. You take in so much, and we were speaking about this before. You take in so much of these kids' traumas, their issues, and along with that, dealing with their parents, and along with that, you have a life. You have your own issues, your own responsibilities, whatever traumas you may have been through. Just you yourself. So, how do you, being the go-to person, right? How do you release yourself, or how do you get your mind to a space of, I just took on all this stuff, and now I gotta either, I guess, just process it or dump it in some kind of way to still have the same mind. So what does that look like for you?
So after, I've worked on this a lot. So after my sessions, I really don't think about it. Like I'll be in a session and I'll engage in their trauma dumping, especially the parents, because they'll just end up talking about their own stuff. But I don't really think about it when I leave the session. I leave the room and I'm like, have a good day. All right, so what was y'all saying? Like I go back to whatever I was kind of doing because I can't internalize other people's stuff. And I've had to learn that in being the strong friend, that I can't exhaust myself and I have to have boundaries with how much I intake. But I do a lot of self-care. I journal. I do a lot of reading, which can be overwhelming too. I engage in a lot of social worky, mental health stuff, just naturally on a day-to-day basis now that I'm thinking about it.
Hey,
it's kind of crazy.
Realization.
I do read like a lot of like psychological books from Dr. Amos Wilson. He's like my favorite Pan-African thinker, psychologist. He was just such a man. But I think just the way, like, if people were to read him or watch his videos, he has
You're gonna make me pick up his information now.
He has a ton of videos on YouTube. He's very like in your face, like the black. He be talking some good stuff. Y'all just have to watch it.
Yeah, so you gotta have to tune in now.
But I do like a lot of. I date myself. Like tonight, I'm going to the movies, so I take myself to the movies regularly. I go to the spa, I get my massages and stuff. I'll have like picnics by myself. I go to this park by my house. and I'll pack up like some notebooks and some fruit and stuff, and I'll just sit with myself. Like I enjoy looking inward at myself. I enjoy just uncovering things about myself that other people have shared from their experience of me. Because I feel like the goal is to get to the most authentic version of yourself, the highest version of yourself. So it's not to strive for perfection, but it's to get to the part of yourself that's helping your evolution and helping you maintain whatever that purpose is for you in life. So I feel like once you have that perspective, you ensure that you're not taking on other people's stuff and you find boundaries to protect yourself from your own healing. But it's definitely a work in progress. Like,
what you doing?
Because I'll be slipping up sometimes myself. I'd be like, fuck.
But we all had those days, though. You know, we had those days. But you're deep in the self-care, self-help realm of your mind. But a lot of people, they don't even spend that time with themselves. They'll just go out and release this anger or release these issues in so many different ways. But it seems like you have that consciousness of what works for me and what should work for, not saying everybody else, but being with you, you have to learn you. How do you expect to give 100% to somebody else if you're at 40 or 20 and you're not just being involved with yourself, but doing those self-care things is a great way to release. Like for myself, if I'm ever having a mentally drained day, again, we relate on the whole, empath situation. I'm the person to where I get phone calls all day. Yo, what do you think about this? Or this is what I'm going through, or so how can I? So it's just, but I don't hate it. I love, giving advice or trying to help people work out through situations, but it's just like sometimes I have my own life. I have trials and tribulations. So it's just sometimes it just builds up to be so much. I gotta release, but there are so many short periods of time to do it sometimes because of work and life. Is just, but I'll go to the lake. I love just sitting by a body of water early in the mornings and by myself. I can just sit there for hours. Sometimes I just be sitting there and just looking just to hear my thoughts, or I'll take a book out there and read it. Other than that, I'll go for a walk. One is good for your health, and two is just that moment of silence. Just none of those distractions just helps me process things. Because one, if I always got my phone and I'm trying to sit here and do that, it's going to go off. Whether it's a notification, a phone call, or a text, it's going to interrupt it. But I just love those serenity moments with just peace and quiet to where I don't have to talk. I don't have to hear nothing but the nature or my footsteps. Or it's just those things are healing to me. It's just blocking people out is just the best thing in the world. Not being rude, but it's just like,
it's not rude, it's for your protection. Yeah,
it's like I need that time. I tell my friends, like I call it from the military, digging your foxhole. You gotta sometimes.
I need you to stop using military terms.
Let it go. It was the best, worst decision of my life, But it taught me a lot.
I know.
But using that analogy is just once you're in there by yourself, for all those hours sleeping at night, you have the time to sit and self-reflect. You don't have time to worry about what she has going on, what he has going on. It's just you, yourself, and your thoughts, and having to process it and dig into sometimes talk back to yourself and answer it. Because again, what they say, some of the smartest people in the world have conversations with themselves. So
and I be having tons of them.
You know what I'm saying? I don't need, sometimes, I don't go too deep in my combos, but I'll talk back, look in the mirror. But just doing those things helps me out a lot. But since you're also that friend, do your friends kind of understand your boundaries, or do they kind of cross them, or how does that works for you with telling them like, hey, or do you even do it, or do you just turn away the words and says, I need some time to, just I can't talk today, or I'm not answering the phone. So what does that look like for you as far as setting those boundaries with friends and family and colleagues?
So I am very great with setting my boundaries. So I have a lot of friends. All of my friends I've known for a very, very, very long time. So they are aware of my personality. Then when people understand my personality, then they're less offended by certain things because they know that I'm never intentionally trying to make anyone feel away, because I value everyone's mental health. But so I don't really talk to my friends that much because they know that I'm usually exhausted. I'm doing most of my sessions during the week, and they know to ask me before they say anything to me. Like they'll say, like, am I in a space to receive them, whatever, because that's the language that I use with people. So like before I say anything, I'm like, are you in a space to receive I just kind of want to vent, or I'll say like, I want to vent and I want a response, or I just want to vent and I don't want you to say anything. So I feel like I have to put that out there so that they're aware, and then they're able to do the same thing with me and with other people in their lives. My family, the family my family, I'm very like, I'm even more stern with them. Like my family knows we should probably just text her. Yeah. And they know not to, because I do not play those games. But I only say that with my family because, you have family who is kind of just stuck in what's okay for them, which is okay. But I am someone who wants so much more for my life.
Yes.
And I feel like me wanting more means that I'm going to bring in more abundance from other people. I'm going to connect with people who have great energy, who are on the same wave as me. And my family is just not, all the way, like I love them to death.
It's understood.
But they're just not, they're not seeking what I'm seeking.
That growth and that personal
development. I want so much more. They want me to come home a lot. And I'm like, I don't want to come home unless I feel like it. But other than that, I don't want to come home and just do the same thing. I want to do something different. I want to spend my money on a trip that's going to give me peace. Yeah. This is not going to bring me any kind of peace. So yeah, I'm very like stern with them, and I'm the same at work. So my personality is the same all across the board. People know if she is walking fast, she probably has something to do and she is zoned out. Do not distract
her. Don't stop her for nothing.
Like they'll come to me and they know, like, because I like to handle stuff. It's like, okay, you need to get this done. I'm going to move you here. I'm going to do this. I'm doing things outside of what I typically do because I'm trying to I like cohesiveness in a workplace. I like for everything to function effectively. So yeah, I'm the same person like all across the board, and everyone knows what it is with me.
It's
but it's good. Just for my mental health.
Right, but mental health is key. That's important. Like for me, it's just that's the most important thing a human being can focus on. Because again, you hurt your leg, what you do? Go to the doctor, get it fixed. You hurt your arm, go there. But nobody really kind of cares about if my mind is kind of screwed up. Let me go and heal from that. Because again, therapy was the best thing that happened to me in my life. When I came out of the military, it was just from shooting rockets to coming back to the civilian world. I can't translate that to nothing. So it was stages of depression,
that's a transition,
and anxiety. Yeah. Oh, man.
It's a transitional period.
I was going through a very tough transitional period at that time. So it was just like I had to find something to help me out. Like sometimes it got bad, but sometimes it was just so confusing to where, let me try this out. So once I did it, it was just so refreshing to be able to express myself to someone who's well, again, it bounced back to having a great therapist, one who actually is listening, one who can relate, and one who asks those questions back to me to where it allowed me to think about things I never thought of before in my life. It allowed me to dig deep and to say, hey, this could be the root of why I'm even going through this now. I just got out of a successful career and this and that, but it's like, why am I still kind of in a rut? But just going through that therapy was just it was a blessing. I always recommend, if anybody is going through anything, go to therapy. You're not crazy. You don't look stupid. It's gonna help you out to heal from all that past trauma and everything else. But just to say that, to say, take care. We got to take care of our brain 10 times more than we do, especially being Black out here in this world, dealing with all the police brutality and all the stuff we see that we intake is it's very traumatic. We deal with Black PTSD, civilian PTSD. We deal with so much to where you can't just ignore it. But things have been so like regular now. It's just, that's just this happening, or that's just that. We can't look at it like that. We got to really address it. Like, this is not right. And if it affects you, go get the help. Go pick up. You can even get out of a book. Go get a book and read about how can I help myself mentally in X, Y, and Z. But nonetheless, though, before we get out of here, right? For whether it's because you do deal with adolescent ages and older people or whatnot. So if you could give them any kind of advice, any kind of pointers, or just that, motivation to take care of yourself mentally, or how to, if a parent does have a child that they're struggling with, but a big thing you said, the language, what would you give them to help them out in that situation?
I would probably definitely suggest like flashcards. So there are a lot of flashcards, with either facial expressions for kids or younger adults. and flashcards, like with certain words to, and you, like you said earlier, like showing grace. You have to show grace for the fact that these children don't have the language because of their environment or their community or their school or their lack of support. So utilizing that, having like a, you know, like we said earlier, like a reward system, but something like with certain words that associate with certain behaviors. I really enjoy like Montessori techniques, the idea of teaching independence in children, and that independence will help them flourish into adulthood because they'll have the language, they'll have the skill, and they'll know what it looks like to build community when they are struggling, especially for our beautiful Black young boys who really need the assistance with expressing themselves more vulnerably and openly.
That's a fact. That's a fact. But so some motivational advice to them. That's all you right there. So give somebody some motivation right there and just get them into it.
Okay, so motivation for me.
Let's do it.
So take your time, show grace to yourself, because the best thing that you can do is what was I going to say earlier, is self-care. The best thing you can do for yourself is focusing on your own self-care. So if that is going to therapy, it is okay to do so because you're doing something to start your own healing. You're breaking generational curses. You're, you know, letting go of things that do not have to be a part of your journey. It doesn't have to be a label that you associate with who you are or who you want to be. And the more open you are to your own healing, the more people you'll end up being around who are on the same wave, who can encourage your own evolution. So don't give up. It takes time. It will be uncomfortable. It will be hard, but it's worth it at the end.
Big facts. You heard it from herself. So you got any announcements you want to give out to the people? Something that's coming up you got coming?
Wow.
And also tell them where to find you on social media too.
Yeah, follow me on social media. But so I am having an event for my podcast pretty soon.
Okay then.
Yeah, I want all y'all there. You too. Yes, my friend. I want everyone there. But just look out on my website because I'm updating my newsletter for mental health. So I'm going to be posting a lot of information on everything mental health within the Black community and our culture. So check that out.
That's cool. What's your IG? You gotta give them a name.
Who is Aaila?
You.
Like, who am I? Who is Aaila? My IG is who is Aaila? Aaila. It's not Aaliyah.
You gotta get
it's
them
not none
right.
of the other stuff. Okay.
You gotta get them right.
Get
so
it
look,
right.
and a good takeaway from this episode is what I felt is the language, right? Learning the different languages to use to get through to different age groups is very, very, very important. So now that I've been exposed to it, I'm going to take it upon myself to learn the language and use the better language to try to either express myself or to reach to a younger generation. But again, whoever listens to this podcast, thank y'all for tuning in. I am Sir Gates. You can follow me at Sir Gates BC. Also follow the podcast at Inherited Podcast on Instagram. That is NHERITD Podcast. Follow the main page at Inherited. Until next time, we see y'all later, man. It was a good talk. That was a great.
That was really